One of the early memories that I have of the days when I first got to the US as a wide-eyed 16-year-old trying to figure out how things work in my new surroundings is that I noticed these newspaper dispensing machines where you basically put in a few coins and you open the door and there are a whole bunch of newspapers there. And I was thinking to myself, well, that's kind of dumb. You put in 50 cents and you can take 10 newspapers and go sell them for 25 cents. Can you tell I had a criminal mind? Or no, seriously though, and I was noticing that things like you could go to the store and buy something, and if you wanted to return it, they would gladly take it away from you and give you your money back, and no questions asked. And I was thinking, how is that even possible? How could a system like that work? And it wasn't until years later that I really understood the merits of having a process or a system like that places some amount of trust in people. And since then, I've practiced that in my own organizations. And I've really learned that in most cases, maybe not all cases, but 99% of the cases, it really works. Now, I say 99% of the cases because, yes, there are going to be those few people who abuse the system. And yes, you've got to deal with that. But if you just basically for the fear of those few people abusing your process or procedure, if you design it as if everybody's a criminal, then you're really shortchanging yourself and you're limiting everybody. Now, is it always right to put trust in people and say, oh, everybody's going to do the right thing? No, in some cases when you're trying to meet a certain regulatory standard that's going to get you in trouble with the law, or the quality of your product is at stake, or the safety of your people is at stake. Sure, we need to have checks and balances. We got to make sure that we are doing the right kinds of things. At the airport, as we go through all this, the screening and so on and so forth, yeah, the system is that we're going to assume that you are a bad guy until you prove to us that you're not. And you know what? I appreciate that. As a person who has done a lot of flying, I want to make sure that people that I fly with have been checked out. I don't want to just take a chance. But in most cases, your procedures and your policies and your systems ought to be designed with the honest people in mind, people who are going to do the right thing, and not the ones who are going to abuse the system. A really great example of that these days is, people are working from home. There's some companies who are putting all of these checks and balances in place to make sure that you're sitting at your computer, they're tracking what what keys you're hitting on your computer, all of this kind of stuff. And it costs a ton of money, and it instills a sense of lack of trust, when in fact those few people who were going to abuse that system anyway are going to find a way. And now you're going to leave the rest of your organization feeling like you don't trust them. Another good example of that is, a couple of days ago, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and you may know from some of my posts that we just launched our exclusive membership community called On the Court. And we are making a whole bunch of courses and content available to our members. And but our membership is based on an individual membership sort of setup. And so this friend of mine was asking me, he said, aren't you worried that somebody's going to sign up and then just share it with 10 other people? And I said, well, not really, because I don't think too many people are going to do that. And sure, if somebody signs up and then we find out that they signed up on behalf of their entire organization and now they're sharing all of our stuff with their entire organization, sure, we'll take some action there. But for the most part, we rely on people's integrity and their good judgment to say, look, we trust you. This is an individual membership. It doesn't cost that much. And so anybody who wants to use it ought to become part of this community. And we're not worried. By the same token, in many of the organizations I've been a part of, in fact, in all of the organizations that I've been a part of, I can say that even the people who were working on an hourly basis, in none of my organizations, people had a time card. We simply did not ask people to physically punch a card when they came in and when they left. We asked them to keep up with their time and write it down. And then basically we paid them for it. And in the 31 years that I spent in the corporate world, I can count on one hand how many times that privilege was abused. And yes, we took action in those cases. But the moral of the story again is design your policies and procedures and systems with the 95% or the 98% in mind, and then deal with those few cases of abuse as opposed to the other way around and just really causing people to feel like you don't trust them.